cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Michael Devine and Janece Valentine, now at AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, it's 2:37. Janece Valentine is here. Sorry, I'm getting you on the air a couple of minutes late here, Janece. I apologize. I got a little windy in my earlier segment. I was on by myself.
You?
Yes, it happened.
No.
It happened. Well, as an old baseball fan all my life, I was mourning the loss of Henry Aaron, who passed away the other day at 86, or early this morning, I guess. And I wanted to remind myself and everybody else, those who feel oppressed today have no idea what a young child in 1930s Alabama suffered through. And he still rose to the top of his profession and became respected throughout the country and the world. Now, that is a man of great achievement. He was very quiet, classy, dignified. We have lost that in favor of people who like to scream their damn head off. I wish we hadn't, but I guess that's where we are.
Yeah, he was certainly one for the ages, no doubt.
Well, that was probably a little bit before your time, but I know you appreciate someone like Henry Aaron in a tremendous and quiet example that he set. And he won, as I mentioned in the last segment, he won the National League Most Valuable Player Award in 1957. Now, we were not enlightened in 1957. This was before the Civil Rights era. There was a lot of, overt racism, undisguised. No need to disguise the way I feel at all. I'm a racist, and I'm proud of it. There was a lot of that still going on. And he triumphed over it in his quiet and, again, dignified way. Janece Valentine, by the way, is a local attorney. She practices primarily in workers' compensation and personal injury. There's no fee for first consultation. Janece Valentine is at Valentine Law Office PC. Janece Valentine, jvalentine at valentinelaw.net. You may reach her office by calling 515-955-5544. She's at 415 the Boston Center, 809 Central Avenue, Fort Dodge, and at www.valentinelaw.net. That's very impressive, Janece.
It's a mouthful, right?
Hey, if you don't let people know where you are and what you do, they won't find you.
Yeah. You know, going back to your initial lead-in, if you haven't had the chance to catch the film 42.
Jackie Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously dealing with somebody different, but very similar in the tenor of the times, so to speak. And I found, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I don't know if that makes me non-American. I really enjoy a lot of other sports more, but I appreciate the titans of the game, you know, and,
sure.
And that was a film that certainly highlighted his accomplishments and what it took to get there.
Well, Jackie Robinson, again, I mentioned this in the last segment, and Jackie was a little bit before my time, by the way, but I've read that he was picked because of his toughness and self-control. He'd been a lieutenant in the United States Army, and he did exercise that control. There were, especially the St. Louis Cardinals, from what I understand, were very racist at that time. And the player, ladies and gentlemen, I was trying to think of a particular player who rode Jackie Robinson really hard, and that player was Enos Slaughter, who later in his life apologized for all his ugliness. But the point I'm trying to make is that Jackie Robinson did exercise great self-control, but he wasn't a wimpy guy. There's films of him jumping to his feet and squaring off against some people who were giving him grief about being black. He was not afraid to fight, even at that time and even in that atmosphere. Now, that takes guts.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt.
You're not confident you have backup.
Yeah. You're never, and the Dodgers and Cardinals were big rivals back then. And, you don't know how your fellow white players are feeling. But that was something we had to go through, I guess. Fortunately, there was no overt violence toward Robinson while he was on the field anyway. But Henry Aaron, for an example, Henry Aaron was going to break, and he did break Babe Ruth's home run record. And in the weeks leading up to a time when he would break that record, he received a lot of death threats. And that's embarrassing to me because I was an adult. I was a veteran of foreign wars, and we're still doing this nonsense. Yeah, I was rooting for him. Come on, bring it. I didn't, Babe Ruth was before my time. And he was a great, great ball player, but I remember feeling embarrassed that these stupid people were making threats against a great, great ball player who was just going to break a record. And by the way, somebody broke his record.
Exactly. Records, don't they always say that? Records are made to be broken.
I believe you're right. Janece and I talked last week about free speech. I'm a little disturbed. The Democrats were really freaked out, Janece, over the election of Donald Trump. First of all, they lost another electoral college election to a woman. Hillary Clinton, it was a shoo-in. I didn't even watch election night, Janece, and I usually do. I was absolutely convinced Hillary Clinton was going to win, and she did win the popular
remember
vote.
that. I remember our discussions about that, and I kept telling you, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's right. And you were right. But I thought she had it for many reasons. For one big thing, I could not imagine Donald Trump as president of the United States. I have a pretty active memory, but fantasy life. But I never imagined that Donald Trump, for God's sake, was going to be the president of the United States. Anyway, they were really ticked and just never let up on Trump. But since Trump has been defeated and President Biden is in office, there have been moves to silence speech. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and now she's not mainstream, but she actually suggested that we should have re-education camps for Trump supporters so they could be indoctrinated in right thinking and not be so easily fooled by a crazy person like Trump. I was staggered, and she was apparently serious. And a re-education camp? I mean, like they have in China? God almighty.
Yeah, well, that highlights some of what we were talking about last week, the extremes on both sides. You'd think that would be in an Onion article, right?
Yeah, really.
I
thought it was a joke,
Yeah. In fact, when you said it, I kind of was thinking it might be, but then I thought, well, maybe not given the source. But, I think I didn't listen really to any of the inauguration because I had other issues going on that needed my attention. But my understanding from, listening to, reading the ticker at the bottom of the screen
right.
on occasion, it seemed that there was quite a focus on unity. And, I really think that that's where we're at as a country. I think a lot of us are yearning to be more unified. And the anger and the hate that's been spewed on both sides is exhausting. I mean, it's just...
We got to get away from this, what I call whipsaw politics. I mean, Trump was all over the place, whipsawing back and forth and up and down. And now...
And I found it interesting. I was talking with a Trump supporter earlier this week, and even they commented, they're like, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of nice not having the Twitter machine going. Because you never knew.
Yeah.
You never knew what was going to happen. So there is a sense of calm, I think, for people, even those that voted and supported Trump. But I really hope that, one, we can recognize facts for what facts are and deal with the facts. And I am going to be naive enough for a few moments of this year to believe that there is an opportunity for the two sides to make something happen that progresses people forward as a whole and not just, one-sidedness. I don't know. Maybe that's too Pollyanna in 2021, but I would really like to hope that both sides have looked at what's happened and realized it doesn't happen on the fringes. We have to move to the middle and make things work for the people. The other thing, I really hope in my lifetime I see term limits on the ballot.
That would be great.
It needs to happen.
It really does.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen?
There's
Janece Valentine displaying Iowa common sense. This is why Janece is great on this program, because I'm completely jaded. I mean, when Trump was accused of lying, and of course he was the biggest liar in my lifetime, perhaps in the history of the United States. But I still go back to Bill Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky, and Obama wasn't quite so bad, but there were. Lyndon Johnson told some whoppers, and I think Lyndon Johnson is the greatest president of the 20th century. I mean, Civil Rights Act, Medicare, Voting Rights Act. Come on, who else has got that sort of record? But he lied just terribly about the war in Vietnam, and we paid for it. I think it's up to we, the people, to demand the truth from political figures because they want to engage in political speech. I don't think that's going to work anymore.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary on where we're at, and your comments also highlight this isn't necessarily new. We've figured out how to work through these situations as a country before Donald Trump, and we need to do so again. I know that there are. It's funny when I look at my Facebook feed. The inauguration day was either the best day of their life, or the world was coming to an end. I didn't really have much in between. and I think, again, we need to refocus and look at working together to make real change and real things happen. There are so many things that we agree on that simply get ignored. Let's turn this more local. I didn't hear a single candidate that was on my TV screen for way longer than I ever wanted this session.
Right.
I didn't hear a single candidate talk anything about the death penalty, and yet that's one of the first bills that is apparently going to be talked about. And I don't think that that's on most people's radar. We're worried about our health care. We're worried about education. We're worried about our infrastructure that's failing. We're worried about taxes. Those are the things I would think if you put a top 5 out there, those would be the issues that would surface for most people.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. I definitely am concerned about my right to carry a 50 caliber machine gun into the state capitol. I think that's an inalienable right given to me by God. I guess but I know what you're saying. I want to bring up before we get too far away here. A judge in Seattle, Barbara something. I couldn't remember her last name. She's in Seattle, so she probably was at the bench in beads, and she had incense on the bench and the whole thing. I don't know, but Parler, and I didn't know Parler existed until they were taken off Google and the Amazon Web Service. Parler, I guess, was a real venting place for so-called paramilitaries that seemed to be planning violent action here, there, or everywhere, or at least they were using violent language. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret, Janece. These people on Parler threatening this violence or with all this aggressive talk, they're men in their 70s who live in Lauraville with a ponytail and a beard, and they can barely get to the bathroom. So they're real tough on social media, but they're really, most of them are harmless. Now, I know the January 6th thing shook us all, but back to what the judge is ruling, the judge allowed Amazon to boot Parler off their web service. The reason she gave was there is a lot of violent and contentious speech on Parler. Okay, and I've never seen the website, or excuse me, the social media site. So I really don't know. But is that a reason? Do you suppose these guys with the gray ponytails, venting and acting tough, trying to be Rambo again, do you suppose these guys should be kicked off social media?
Well, and I'm going to beg to differ with you on your characterization of who's jumping onto Parler, because I actually know some people that jump to Parler. They left Facebook.
You know some of these people?
I do, and they do not have ponytails, and they're not in their 70s. They're more like in their 40s, and very conservative viewpoints, and very ticked off about the election.
But are they violent people, or?
Well, I don't think we know necessarily.
Do they? I'll rephrase the question. Do they speak as violent people?
They do not. But
Okay.
I can see, and the mob mentality is a real thing. I mean, that's a real thing. And how we act alone is much different than when we get riled up with a group. So, yeah, I guess I would have some concerns about what's going on in Parler. But, again, we go back to that whole Amazon is not a government entity. It's a private entity.
I know that. And
I know
that's
you know
the
that.
problem, though. These private companies have unbelievable power. They may be more powerful than the government itself. I say that because Trump beat Hillary Clinton with Twitter. He really did. He bypassed television, radio advertising, newspaper advertising, and beat Hillary Clinton with Twitter, which is just unbelievable.
Yep. With what is it, 120 or 140 characters?
Yeah, 140 characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a Twitter person either, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a driving force. And think about, when's the last time we had a press conference from the president? I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost it's such a distant memory. We don't even know what it looks like anymore. So yeah, in terms of Parler, I guess I'd go back to the free market concept of, you've got a product. If Amazon doesn't want it, find somebody else that does. And it kind of sounds to me like they did. Now I've heard things, and I'm not going to share on this format what I heard, because I don't have confirmation of it, and I don't want to be one of those people that are spreading untruths like we talked about. That's so dangerous. But my understanding is they have found a new platform that is willing to accept their whatever. What is it called? Is it
It's Parler.
outlet?
I have no idea what that means. I don't know whether they got Twitter or Facebook either, for that matter.
Right, exactly. I don't know what all, but anyway, they have an interested and or a buyer willing to take them on. So, that's how free market works. If you have a product that the buyer doesn't want, for whatever reason, then you need to go find another buyer.
Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, and others found that private companies were getting too huge. I think with Walmart and Twitter and Facebook and a lot of these things, they're coming very close to cornering the market in a number of areas.
Amazon? Are you kidding me? I mean, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah, there's more people buying online now, and of course we knew this. There's more people buying online now than buy at big retailers. Walmart and some of the other stores, their online sites are doing a business, but I'm taken aback by the power of private companies now. They seem to have the power to just dismiss the government. Just, no, we're not going to do it. I'm very, you're going to keep me up tonight with that story that you said about there's a lot of people on Parler that are in their 40s and they don't appear to be rednecks, because that's not good news.
Well, I'm just sharing what I know, and that is, I do know that for a fact. Now, are there thousands of them? No, I don't know thousands of those people, but off the top of my head, I can think of 6 that have left Facebook for Parler.
Really?
So, yeah, and 40s and 50s is kind of the ballpark age for the ones that I know, and no ponytails. No ponytails in the group. So.
Well, I thought my generation was the last one that was really going to be crazy, but perhaps
guns is a big part of it. When I'm thinking of these people, guns is a huge part of their lifestyle. And from our previous conversations, I'm all for the Second Amendment. I think we need to be realistic and smart in looking at who should be a gun owner. I mean, I think there are circumstances that dictate that maybe a gun isn't a good idea to be in somebody's hands at a particular time, for many reasons. But definitely the Second Amendment should be. Well, there's a reason it's the second one. When we talked about the first one,
right.
Last time, but there's a reason it's the second one, because it's really important.
I don't want to go back before we had these pro-gun laws, where the county sheriff got to pick who got a permit to carry and who didn't. There's, you grew up in a small area, so did I, and there was too much of this. Oh yeah, I know him. His dad, his great uncle was crazy. Well, his great uncle might have been crazy, but that is really a good reason to deny him a permit to carry. Probably not.
Right. And on the flip side, sometimes there were people that probably got permits that shouldn't have because of who they knew.
Sure.
That cuts both ways. But yeah, no, I'm fine with hunting and all those things and private shooting. In fact, back in the day when I was single, I did go to the range every once in a while with some buddies, and it was fun.
Sure.
I mean, it's fun and it's pretty clean, pure entertainment, frankly. To test your skill and know and for me, I felt it was good to know what a weapon did and how it worked and to be respectful of it. I think that's an important, in fact, my dad sent both my sister and I to, I don't know if they still offer this, but I think it was through the extension office. There was a gun safety class.
Well, the VFW and American Legion is what I went to. And the first thing they emphasized, and practically the only thing they emphasized, was safety. Now, that's a great idea. Safety to teach kids.
Yeah,
because
that's what we all learned. But I think it's important to even handle a weapon.
Yes.
I mean, they're heavier than what you think. I mean, they don't look that heavy in the cartoons, and they kick back when you fire. I mean, there's just things that it's good to know. And like I said, also to respect. I remember, I think the very first thing, and you probably had this in your class as well, but the very first thing that came out of our instructor's mouth was, you don't point this at anything you don't expect to kill.
Ever. Janece Valentine has been our guest. We got to go. Janece, Tim Kreinberg.
All right. You have a great weekend. You have a great weekend, Mike.
Thank you.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in North Central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KBFD, Fort Dodge.
The president calls it a rescue plan. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. But for now, the nearly $2 trillion proposal for more COVID relief remains a work in progress, an uncertain time frame on Capitol Hill. So President Biden has just signed more COVID-related executive orders.
A whole government effort to help millions of Americans who are badly hurting. It requires all federal agencies to do what they can do to provide relief to families, small business, and communities. And in the days ahead, I expect agencies to act.
For instance, ramped up